and welcome back to the Anaya algorithm. If you're new here, this is where we talk about leading AI intentionally, not reactively, not experimentally, not chaotically. In our last solo episode, we introduced the intentional foundation, the idea that to succeed with AI, you need a unified base of strategy, data, governance, and operations. Because AI isn't magic, it's infrastructure, and infrastructure only works when it's connected. But today, I want to talk about what happens when that foundation is missing. You get what I call the island of AI problems. And I promise you, if you're working inside a mid to large organization right now, you've seen this happen. It starts with good intentions. It always does. The marketing team spins up a pilot to predict customer churn using a new model. They're excited. They've got dashboards, forecast, early insights. Meanwhile, finance experiments with an AI agent to automate invoice processing. It's reducing manual effort. The CFO is impressed. The product team builds a shiny new feature using the latest language model. It demos beautifully and everyone claps in the boardroom. Each of these projects might genuinely be a success. Each one becomes its own little island of innovation. And at first, that feels exciting. It feels progressive. It feels modern. It feels like momentum. But here's the question no one asked in the beginning. Are these islands connected, or are they drifting further apart? Let's make this relatable. Imagine your organization as a growing city. Marketing built a road, finance built a road, product built a road, but no one agreed on where the city center is. So the roads don't meet. They look impressive on their own, beautifully paved, nicely lit, but they lead nowhere. That is the island of AI. Different teams, different tools, different vendors, different data sources. In fact, you have different definitions of customer. You have different definitions of success. And marketing's active user isn't finance's billable customer. And product's data set isn't governed the same way as compliance data set. So one team uses open source models, another uses a proprietary platform, another uses spreadsheets exported every Friday. And suddenly, what feels like progress actually becomes fragmentation. Now, here's where the problems begin. First, nothing scales. This is the big one. The marketing pilot works, but when leadership says, great, roll this out company-wide, someone discovers the data isn't standardized, or the infrastructure can't handle enterprise volume, or the model was built by a consultant who's already moved on, or security flags it at the 11th hour, and so it stays a pilot. The finance agent is clever, but it can't integrate with the new enterprise system. The product feature can't reuse data from another department because definitions don't align. You're stuck in what so many leaders quietly describe to me as the endless pilot loop. Demo, applause, delay, rebuild, repeat. This is the pilot to production gap that leaders like Matt Armstrong-Barnes and Dan Warner warned us about in our opening episode. It's not that AI doesn't work. It's that the organization wasn't designed for it to scale. And here's the hard truth. AI doesn't fail because of algorithms. It fails because of alignment. Second problem, risk multiplies. Now, this one keeps boards awake at night. When every team builds its own AI solution, you don't just get innovation, you get inconsistency. Each island has its own security posture, its own data access rules, its own interpretation of ethical use, its own unmanaged cloud costs, its own vendor contract, its own blind spot. Instead of one well-defended coastline, you now have dozens of undefended beaches and no central watchtower. One team might be fine-tuning a model on sensitive customer data without proper consent tracking. Another team might be using an API whose data retention policies haven't been reviewed. Another might be generating outputs that haven't been evaluated for bias or regulatory exposure. Individually, they look harmless. However, when you think about it collectively, they create systemic risk. And here's what's subtle. The risk isn't just technical. It's reputational, it's regulatory, it's financial, it's cultural. Because once trust erodes internally or externally, it's very hard to rebuild. And then the third problem shows up. Leadership confidence starts to fade. At first, executives are energized. There are demos, are proofs of concept. There are slide decks with AI strategy 2026 on them. But over time, a pattern emerges. Lots of activity, lots of experiment, lots of spending, but no compounded business impact. So revenue isn't fundamentally shifting, margins aren't structurally improving, customer experience isn't transforming at scale. The ROI is fragmented. And when ROI is fragmented, something dangerous happens. Decision fatigue sets in. Leaders start asking, should we invest more? Should we pause? Should we wait for the technology to mature? Should we centralize? Should we decentralize? This is the cycle of indecision we talked about before. And it thrives in organizations with islands of AI because when nothing connects, really nothing compounds. So, how do we fix this? How do we turn scattered islands into a continent? How do we build something that scales, protects, and compounds value? It comes down to two fundamental shifts. First, a blueprint for operational excellence. This doesn't mean bureaucracy. It doesn't mean slowing innovation. It doesn't mean taking creativity away from teams. It means creating a shared delivery engine, a common language, a common playbook, a shared definition of done. It means also standardizing the data definitions, reusable model components, clear ownership models, and defined life cycle management. Not to talk about transparent cost tracking, shared infrastructure patterns, and thinking of it like urban planning. You can still build unique buildings, but the roads connect. The utilities are shared. The zoning laws make sense. Operational excellence is what allows innovation to scale without collapsing under its own weight. It's how you move from AI experiment to AI capability. Second, accountable governance. And I want to be clear. Governance is not the enemy of innovation. Bad governance is. Accountable governance is what builds trust. It ensures every project, every island is built with the same risk thresholds, the same security baselines, the same ethical guardrails, the same definition of safe and effective. It creates transparency across the organization. It answers who approved this, what data does it use, how is bias monitored, what happens if it fails, who is accountable. When governance is clear, innovation actually speeds up because teams don't have to guess what's allowed. They don't have to fear hidden consequences. They don't have to redo work when compliance steps in late. Governance becomes the bridge between ambition and responsibility, between innovation and trust, between teams and leadership, between you and your customers. And when operational excellence and accountable governance work together, something powerful happens. The islands connect, data flows, models are reusable, teams, they collaborate instead of duplicating. Risk is visible, impact compounds. You move from isolated wins to systemic advantage. That's when AI stops being a collection of projects and it starts becoming a capability embedded in the DNA of the organization. And this is exactly where we're going next. In our upcoming conversations, we're diving deeper into both of these pillars. And I'm really excited because we'll be speaking with Chris, a CEO who has mastered global delivery and understands how to build operational systems that scale across borders, cultures, and time zones. And we'll speak also with a leader in compliance and governance who builds a unique perspective on accountability, ethics, and regulatory responsibilities in complex systems. Because building AI intentionally isn't just about technology, it's about leadership, it's about structure, it's about courage, it's about alignment. It's about deciding that you don't want a scattered archipelago of experiment. You want a continent, a connected, resilient, scalable foundation. So this week, I want to leave you with one reflection. Where are the islands in your organization? And most importantly, who is responsible for building the bridges? Until next time, keep leading intentionally. Thank you.